Hello everybody, it's Hater. Welcome back to another Destiny 2 build video. Let's talk about GM Nightfalls. As we know, they are directly around the corner, being available to launch from the Vanguard Director in about 2 weeks on the 5th of July. I wanted to bring up and address what I would like to call the ruler of GMs this season, Solar 3.0 Titan. Who could have seen it coming? Clearly not me. But seriously guys, Solar 3.0 Titan is going to be what turns GMs this season into cakewalks. Allow me to explain. If you haven't been living under a rock this season, Solar 3.0 Titan with the Laurely Splendor exotic helmet and classy restoration is going to ring a bell or two. With it, combined with high resilience, it practically turns Titan into the perfect jack of all trades. Classy restoration is going to top off and keep your HP at an all-time high. Sunspots are going to burn and scorch enemies at the same time, providing a weapon damage and healing buff. Then Laurely Splendor Helm fills in the one problem that the build has, giving us a sunspot on demand. From this point, we can pretty much change anything in the build to fit any scenario we're bringing it into. For that sole reason, it's why I think it's going to be the king of GM Nightfalls this season. In the background footage that's been playing since the beginning, I'm using Laurely Splendor Helm 3.0 Titan in a master level 1590 Nightfall while 20 light down. You could probably not even tell because I'm practically treating it like it's an adept difficulty Nightfall with just a few extra champions. However, with this build being as flexible as it is, let's start breaking down the build itself, and specifically let's break down the one I'm using in the background so you guys can get a feel for what a GM version of this build could look like. Starting on over at the subclass, I'm using Burning Maul. As we know, this super just got buffed, so its damage is 25% stronger, meaning we're going to deal both more single target damage to any champion we decide to 1v1 with it, or more AoE damage from its right click effect where it's sending tornadoes out to anything in its nearby radius. If you still prefer using the Throwing Hammer super over the Burning Maul, then by all means you can trade it out for which one you like using. I personally use Burning Maul, you could use Throwing Hammers. Rally Barricade is going to be your best friend. It makes perfect sense. You don't want to throw down a towering barricade to proc your Laurely Splendor Helm. Also, you get a little bonus extra by gaining more reload speed, stability, and range on your weapon when you're standing behind it. Melee attacks. This is personally preference. Throwing Hammer is the GOAT itself of this entire season. Pair that with Roaring Flames for more damage, and you just have a Throwing Hammer you can just bonk things over and over again. But if you like using Hammer Strike like myself, you can trade it out sometimes depending on what you like. If you're also interested in a one-shot version of that build where we do a lot of damage on Hammer Strike, then you should see that on the top right, or heading on over down to my channel where you could also like the video. Also subscribe if you haven't already so you'll be up to date whenever a new build video goes out. But as for your grenade, I like using thermite grenades. If you feel like you're not gaining enough HP from everything, maybe the GM Nightfall is a little tough on the ad side, you could just trade it out for something like the healing grenade. This is going to give you an instant cure and also give you a minor restoration on top of your Laurely Splendor Helm. Super helpful. Now for the aspects themselves, this is where it gets interesting, or I should say relatively boring, because we're going to be using the same ones pretty much no matter what content we bring this build into. Roaring Flames is going to be the first one. It's going to increase our solar ability damage every time we get kills with solar abilities or ignitions. This is going to stack up to 3 times and give us overall damage to all of our abilities, including our sunspots and Burning Maul. It also has an extra effect on it now where if we don't have our melee ability, maybe we throw our Throwing Hammer off the cliff and we can't get it anymore, our basic attack is going to also scorch enemies and be considered a powered melee attack. For the other aspect, we'll be using Sol Invictus. This is the bread and butter aspect you'll be pairing with Laurely Splendor Helm. Any kind of solar ability final blow, scorched kills, or sunspot kills, or even kills from our incandescent weapons are going to create a pool of fire called a sunspot. Standing inside of it is going to regenerate our abilities faster, give us constant healing, damage any enemy who steps inside of it, and also make our super drain slower at the same time. Truly an all-in-one special for just 2 fragment slots. Seriously, if Bungie finds Solar 3.0 Titan a little hot right now, get it? They can knock it down a peg by making Sol Invictus have 1 fragment slot instead of 2. Even though in my opinion, I don't think that'll do much, they might, I don't know. But moving on over to the fragments now, starting from the left, we're going to be using Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks make you and nearby allies radiant, meaning you have 25% more damage for the entire duration. This is the most obvious option because you have a indefinitely rechargeable melee attack in the form of the throwing hammer. Bonk something with the throwing hammer, you gain radiant. Nothing else to it. For the next fragment, we're using Ember of Ashes. You apply more scorch stacks to targets. This just means everything that we have that applies scorch stacks applies 50% more scorch stacks. In the long run, meaning it is easier to ignite enemies. Super helpful just in general. For the next fragment, Ember of Char, our solar ignitions are now going to spread scorch to anything nearby the affected target, meaning that whenever we cause anything to ignite via a grenade, our burning maul, our throwing hammer super, our incandescent weapons, it's going to make it easier to clear ads out in the long run. Then for the final fragment, Ember of Empyrean, solar weapon final blows or ability final blows are going to extend the duration of both restoration and radiant effects applied to us. Probably the most broken fragment out of every single one of them. Pretty much what this means is while we have both the radiant buff from Ember of Torches and the restoration buff from Classy Restoration active, we get any kill in general that is solar, and we have both of those buffs extended. Moving on now to the loadout, let's talk about what I brung into this GM. For my kinetic weapon, I'm running Arbalest. This is the most self-explanatory weapon. In the Inverted Spire, there's both anti-barrier champions and unstoppable champions. So Arbalest being able to break every shield in the game, apply a debuff to them when they're broken, and innately pierce anti-barrier champions, it is the perfect option. For my incandescent weapon of choice, I ran the Staccato. Being able to use Unstoppable Scout Rifle, my triple tap incandescent roll is going to be able to deal with a lot of ads from a good distance and also apply AoE effects whenever I kill anything. For my heavy weapon, Cataclysmic, 4th times the charm Focus Fury. I would have liked a Storm Chaser in this slot, but I don't have it right now that with a good roll, so this is the best option. Nothing really else to it. It is just a great heavy option just in general. For the armor, we're going to need a few things. We're going to need at least 3 armor pieces solar and then 1 armor piece arc for this build. Starting at the Loreley Splendor Helm, I'm using mine as solar, but it can be any energy of my choosing, and I'm using Elemental Ordnance. Grenade kills are going to create a Elemental Well of my subclass typing, meaning we get a kill with our Thermite Grenade, Solar Elemental Wells. A very self-explanatory mod. Moving on down to the arms, we're using Explosive Wellmaker, and this is my first piece of armor I have as solar. Explosive Wellmaker pairs really nicely with Elemental Ordnance or anything explosive in the build. Whenever we get kills with anything that is considered explosive damage, it creates a solar elemental well. Again, another way to gain more ability energy. Moving down to the chest piece, this is the armor piece I recommend you have arc. Not because of the mod at the end, but for the arc resistance we're pairing with Armor of the Dying Star. With Armor of the Dying Star coming from the artifact this season, it allows us to resist both solar and void damage at the same time. Pair that with an arc resistance mod, and now we're reducing damage from all 3 element typings. For the mod at the end though, it is Font of Might. Font of Might is going to give our weapons that match our subclass typing 25% more damage whenever we pick up an elemental well that is matching the same type of energy. So in this case, both my Cataclysmic and my Staccato are going to gain 25% more damage whenever I pick up an Explosive Wellmaker well or an Elemental Ordnance well. Moving on down to the boots, this is the second armor piece that I have as solar because we're using Well of Life. If you thought all of the healing we're gaining from Classy Restoration and our sunspots wasn't enough, then this is going to be the icing on top of our giant mountain of survivability. Well of Life is going to give us constant regeneration for our health that can't even be interrupted whenever we pick up a solar elemental well. This is just here for the mere purpose of when we don't have classy restoration active or we don't have a sunspot in the near vicinity. Other than that, if you don't enjoy the mod, you could change it out for something else that you enjoy, like something like elemental armaments, for example. And then finally, down to the class item where we'll finish everything off. This is the final armor piece we'll have as solar for the mod Bountiful Wells. All this does is double up on all of the mods that we have that create elemental wells. Each one of them that we have equipped is going to create one extra elemental well based on how many of that mod is equipped. Because we only have one elemental ordnance and one explosive well maker, both of those mods individually are going to create 2 solar elemental wells every time that they proc. And then finally, everyone already knows what's in the class item alongside everything else: classy restoration. You use your solar class ability and you have constant ×2 restoration until it ends. And that is going to be the build for today's video. Pretty much now, you can just trade any of your weapons out or any of the mods that you don't like in this build to whatever you want them to be. Like I said, it's a jack of all trades. You can change this out for anything. All you need is classy restoration, sunspots, and lordly splendor helm. If you have any questions, maybe it's towards the upcoming GMs for your own loadouts, feel free to leave them down in the comments, or you can come ask me over at my Twitch, where I stream every single day at 7 p.m. Eastern. Overall though, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to catch you in the next one. Bye bye.